It's my pleasure now to introduce Nora Hadjisotiriou, who's going to read a paper, The Kyrenia Ship. Nora is involved in various enterprises in Cyprus, private enterprises, but also she involved in enterprises that promote art and artists, and is the organiser of conferences. So Nora, welcome to the Kyrenia Ship.
Good morning. I would also like to thank John and Alicia and Nick, and of course the Cyprus Center and the Metropolitan University for inviting me here. The Kyrenia Ship is the wreck of a 4th century BCE Greek merchant ship. It represents the best preserved hull of the classical Greek period ever found. About 60% of the total area and more than 75% of her representative timbers have survived. She is housed in the 12th century Kyrenia castle. She is the oldest merchant ship yet to be discovered, excavated, reconstructed, and then replicated, and she is at over 2,300 years old, one of the most treasured of all maritime finds. A storehouse of information that continues to reveal secrets about shipbuilding, seafaring trade, and activities that occurred during the turbulent years that followed the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BCE. Andreas Kyriolou got a glimpse of the wreck in November 1965, and it took him another 200 dives and 2 years to find it again. What he first saw were 80 graceful amphorae lying on the seabed 33 meters below the surface, covering a small area of 3 by 5 meters. Andreas Kyriolou was a Kyrenia councilman, a citrus fruit grower, and a respected diving instructor. He died in 1977 trying to save a Canadian diver. Once he had rediscovered the wreck in 1967, Kyriolou showed it to Michael Katsev of the University of Pennsylvania Museum, who was in Cyprus with an archaeological team looking for sunken ships. It took Katsev 7 years, from 1967 to 1974, and a team of over 100 specialists, archaeologists, students, technicians, to raise, preserve, and restore the wreck. Another valued member of the team was Richard Steffi, who in the early 1970s embarked on a second career as a ship reconstructor. To better understand the ship and how it worked, he made various models, and many of the techniques developed are taught today to nautical archaeology students in the USA. Amphora expert Virginia Grace of the Athenian Agora determined that the amphora shapes placed the wreck in the latter third of the 4th century. Carbon-14 tests dated the trees used for the hull that had been cut around 389 BCE. The 7 coins found dated the ship sinking between 310 and 300, and the freshly harvested almonds were dated at 288 BCE. This means that the ship was probably more than 80 years old when she sank. The wooden hull was built mostly of Aleppo pine. She was built in the shell-first manner, quite opposite of today's method. The ship was intended for long service and underwent many repairs. In the last repair, a skein of lead sheathing was applied to her body to keep the old ship waterproof. She sank in open waters less than a mile from the anchorage of Kyrenia. The evidence pointed to her being taken by rough seas, though later findings point to piracy being a more likely cause, and these are 8 spear points found underneath the hull, several of which have bits of the ship's lead sheathing. The absence of a crew who will have been taken prisoner and to be sold as slaves later on. The balance, weights, and coinage for measuring and trading goods that would have been used by her captain were missing, as well as a ton of a cargo. And the final clinger for this theory is the presence of a cursed tablet. A pirate would have hammered the lead tablet to a part of the boat as it sank in hopes that the dark magic of the tablet would conceal the evidence of his crime. The pirates, after taking the cargo and anything else of value, would have axed a hole in the bilge to sink the ship and thus cover their act. However, the fact that no personal belongings of the crew were ever found, nor the captain's purse, leads to a different hypothesis. that the mariners escaped clinging to floating articles from the ship, escaping a storm. The fact that the ship's single sail had been taken down before she sank, because 100 rigging rings from the large square sail stowed there were found, further supports the storm theory. The objects exhibited at Kyrenia Castle are the original ones that she carried during her last voyage, and from them one can learn about the life of those traders. They found 10 amphorae that came from the island of Samos, 29 millstones that served as ballast as well, were probably from Kos, where masons carved letters of identification on the sides of the stones. The main cargo were 400 wine amphorae that were mostly made on Rhodos Island, and they found 10,000 albums in jars and in the ship's hull, which were perfectly preserved. Crockery pointed to a crew of 4, and there were also some iron ingots and ship equipment. Based on the cargo found, it is surmised that the ship sailed southwards along the coast of Anatolia, calling at the islands of Samos, Kos, and Rhodos before continuing to Cyprus. I'm not very good at pointing, so I shall show you like this. So this is Samos, Kos, Rhodos, and then she followed on to Cyprus. Because a lot of solid evidence was accumulated through the studies between 67 and 74, the Kyrenia ship became prime candidate among ancient Mediterranean vessels for full-scale replication. In 1982, Haris Jallas, the president of the Hellenic Institute for the Preservation of Nautical Traditions, agreed to fund the reconstruction of Kyrenia II and invited INA, which is the Institute of Nautical Archaeology, and Michael Katsev, INA's vice president and director of the Kyrenia project, and Richard Steffi, INA's ship reconstructor, to supply the data and act as consultant. She was built following the old tradition, or the original tradition of the Kyrenia, the original Kyrenia, and she was built shell first, a wood and labor wasteful practice that has since been abandoned, at the shipyard of Manolis Psaros at Perama, near Athens, Greece, and later on shipwright Michalis Ikonomou also joined the team. Between 86 and 91, Kyrenia II visited many countries. In April 86, and after the test showed that this highly unfamiliar piece of ancient naval architecture could actually float, the Greek government decided that Kyrenia II would be perfect to kick off the celebrations to name Athens the first cultural capital of Europe. She was christened by Melina Mercouri and Susan Womer-Katzer on 22nd June 1986. She was then shipped to New York in order to participate in the 4th of July celebrations, as well as the 100th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty, 28 October 1886, joining Opsail 86 and sailing up the Hudson River. On 6 September of the same year, she left Athens and sailed to Cyprus, making stops at the various Greek islands, replicating her last voyage. She arrived in Paphos on 2nd of October at a welcoming crowd of over 12,000. She then visited Limassol and Larnaca. The following April, she sailed from Cyprus to Greece, surviving 2 storms and successfully completing her journey in 20 days. In 88, she was transported to Japan and sailed its ports and was finally exhibited in the ancient capital of Japan, Nara, marking the Silk Road celebrations. Another replica was constructed in Japan, Kyrenia III, and is now permanently exhibited in the town of Fukuoka, a permanent ambassador of Cyprus in Greece. In 89, she sailed the river Elbe, celebrating the 800 years of the port of Hamburg. And finally, in 2003, she came home as a gift of her sponsor, Hari Jallas, and the Hellenic Institute for the Preservation of Nautical Tradition in Greece, and she's housed at the Thalassa Museum in Agia Napa. Kyrenia Liberty. She was built in order to find answers to many remaining scientific questions. This replica respected the original design but used modern building techniques. The construction was undertaken by Gelafkos Kariolu, who is the son of Andreas Kariolu, one of the 3 captains and the current mayor of Kyrenia. The project was funded by the Kyrenia Chrysogava Foundation, and she was built by the Augusti Yard in Limassol. Kyrenia Liberty was launched in Limassol on the 10th of November 2002. Her first voyage was to Athens, Greece, with a symbolic cargo of copper that was used for the Olympic bronze medals at the 2004 Athens Olympics, reviving in this way the ancient tradition according to which ancient towns sent gifts to Greece. On the 17th of April 2003, she sailed from Limassol to Paphos and then followed the route that took her to many Greek islands, including Rhodes, Kalymnos, Leros, Patmos, Kos, Samos, Chios, and Syros before reaching Piraeus. The entire journey took about a month, and the copper and the gifts aboard the ship were handed over to the then mayor of Athens, Dora Bakoyannis. She is currently moored in Limassol, and every summer she sails with one of her 3 captains, teaching old sailing techniques. The amphora that can be seen at the Thalassa Museum were part of the cargo of the Kyrenia Liberty. The Thalassa Museum opened in August 2005, and one can see here they have made a replica of the wreck that was found outside Kyrenia, and with a glass floor, visitors can see what was found at the bottom of the sea. And here is Kyrenia too. And these are the amphorae that were used by Kyrenia Liberty when she did her voyage onto Greece. The Kyrenia ship is used on the coins of Cyprus, on the 10, 20, and 50 cent coins. And thank you.